Okay, can you see the agenda? I should have asked that before I hit record. Just drop me a note in
Yes.
chat. Fabulous. Welcome to, as I always start here, welcome to the June 2023 Evergreen Cataloging Interest Group. I am Jennifer Weston, the facilitator of this fine group. And as always, I am here representing the organizing committee, whose names you will see listed at the very top. We have a really kind of brief agenda today. We're going to talk about some of the very exciting things going on in the community. If you have anything particular you would like to add to this list, any of you, the agenda will magically turn into our notes as we go along today. Obviously, you found us. If you did not get my link to the agenda that was just sent out 15 minutes ago, I will drop that in the chat box. And hi, Carol Bunton from Washington Public Library. Yes, if you're new to us, please drop a note in chat, or even if you're not new, drop a note in chat and let us know who you are and say hello. I didn't do the regular weather update, so I'm always curious about that too. I will say that today is, of course, Elaine Hardy's last meeting with us, and we are here to celebrate her as part of what we're going to do today, which is one of the reasons we don't have a heavy program. We want to just be able to just have a nice little conversation, and then also any kind of bugs that you want to talk about, because one of the things that I learned very quickly from Elaine many, many years ago at this point, when we got together annually as a group, was it doesn't always have to be so structured. Just ask people to tell you what's on their minds, and especially as a group of catalogers, we will tell you what's on our minds. So that's what we're going to do today. So if there's anything specific you want to list here, you don't even have to put it on the agenda. You can just pipe up at the time. I'm going to go through the standing items first. So we'll just see what's on your mind. What kinds of things, about Evergreen, hopefully. But other than that, we can digress if we need to. So when we get together, we always have lots to talk about, and we always learn from one another, especially if we don't try to structure it so much. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's see, we've got Casey from Cumberland in North Carolina. Hello, Casey. I'm also in North Carolina. I never failed to mention that when given the opportunity. So welcome. I am reading the chat as we go along too. I count on the others in the organizing committee to help me take notes if I miss something. So I thank you as always for that. So just a couple of notes first. Notes about the wiki. Yes, it's always work in progress. That's going to stay permanently on our agenda. Though, however, there have been new pages added to the wiki, and if you haven't checked that out lately, I wanted to highlight those. So here we are on our wiki page now under related efforts on the far left in our navigation bar here. You have a link to the Authorities Working Group page and a link to the new bib frame. Say that correctly. I think there's something funny in the way I can't even say bib frame. Okay, bib frame study group has a new page too. So we'll talk about each of those groups when we do updates here, but I wanted to let you know that those two things have been added. So as we talk about sharing materials, those do live on the Cataloging Interest Group wiki. They just have pages that will launch from our cataloging page. Get that out in a moment. So the related efforts live there. The Authorities Working Group and Study Group are just there at the bottom. And they retain the navigation bar. So if you're moving, there's authorities. In bib frame, you're not actually leaving the cataloging group. You're just there and moving between pages, which is kind of nice. That's the only thing that's really changed about the wiki lately. As always, if you're interested in working on it, let me know. One of the things, okay, Evergreen release notes and resources. Release notes since the last time we got together, 311 came out. Hoorah. So there's a link to release notes, or there should be, yes. Even though they're red, those are links. So you can get to 311, 310.2 came out. So we had point releases for 310.2 and 393. Those are the only ones that are still having releases. I leave 383 and 373 there just in case anyone else is still on that version, either 3.8 or 3.7, and you want quick links to the release notes that came out. I will say the tabular release notes are not updated yet, and I will just apologize for that, but I will do it by the end of the month. So while 311 are out and 310 and 32, the tabular release notes do not yet reflect that completely. So when I get those done, I will post a note to the general list and the cataloging list to let you all know that it is indeed updated. And I also need to update the latest releases on our wiki page. I'll do that today. That's kind of it for the wiki and kind of it for release notes. Only we're celebrating that a little bit more here below. Celebrations, Feedback Fest. It feels like that did not just happen in between meetings, but it did. in the May. So Feedback Fest was yet another success. Thanks to everybody who participated and to Taryn for once again leading us through that effort. The summary page is there. And Taryn says, thanks, testers. And I will echo that. So we couldn't do it without you. And which leads us to celebrating Evergreen 311 was released on May 30th. So many thanks to the release team, Michelle Morgan, Jason Boyer, and Blake Graham Henderson. And again, thanks to Taryn for wrangling all of the testing that happened there leading up to that release. I did put just the notes from Michelle's email that went out to the community about the Evergreen 311 and some of the notable enhancements and new features that are there. We'll talk about 311 together as a group next month, but I just wanted to pull this from the message that went out from Michelle. There are some exciting things here. Queued ingest is one of the things that the authority working group's looking at. I'm getting ahead of myself talking about the authority working group, but that will make a big difference for processing authority records. The staff view tab was added, and I'm going to say this in parentheses, was added back to the catalog, to the staff catalog. So that's something that's included in 311. A couple of other things listed there. So again, today's not the day to go through everything in 311, but I did want to document it just for our notes and to say thanks again to everybody that's worked on testing those things. Taryn says the next testing will likely be in August, so we can be prepared for that. That's a good timing. So next month we can look at what's going on in 311 and then get prepared for testing. Thanks, Taryn. Okay, so this is the time to talk about all of you. Who has upgraded lately? Who is not on the list that you want to tell us about what version you're on? Trying to see if there's anybody that should have upgraded that said you were upgrading from the last time. I don't think so. We've got some fall dates going on. Oh, Pels is going to upgrade to 311 in the fall. Fantastic. Let's see, anybody else that's not on here? I'm watching chat. Or you can make your own notes on there too. Oops. Al is coming later this year. I dropped a pen, so I'm distracted myself at the moment. Not that I need it. I'll be back. Okay, I'm here. Let's see. Who else do we have? Links on 3.9. We know that we celebrated Niagara making that huge jump from 3.6 to 3.10 and did it successfully. So congratulations, Maggie, and anybody else who's here from Niagara. Good job. Big, big jump there. If there's anybody else. Pines, where are you currently, Elaine or Taryn? So you're on 3.10.
3.10, yeah.
You're on 3.10. Yeah, so you're probably one of the only people we have. Well, no, I just said Niagara went to 3.10. And Taryn says, so far, so good on 3.10. It's great news. And now we have 3.11 to test. All right, so anybody else wants to add to the list? We just like to celebrate where we are and kind of keep track as we talk with each other about what we're seeing in Evergreen. This helps too, to know who's trying out the new stuff and who's getting ready to upgrade to share. All right, then we'll be looking for more info from people that are on 3.10 and as we make the move to 3.11, how that's working. Months to come. Andrea said back-ish, it didn't exist in the Angular staff cat, right? It was in the old staff catalog, going back talking about the notes here, the staff view tab.
Yeah, the staff view.
Yeah.
It's conceptually different, but
yeah. So in the sentiment was there pre-Angular. Yeah.
Because the Angular staff catalog diverged from the old way of embedding the OPAC as the staff catalog.
Yeah. So we could do things differently in the staff catalog than we do in the public catalog. With Angular at least. Yeah. And I'll be honest, I haven't taken a look at 3.11 staff view yet. So shame on me, but I will do that. Oh, Mary says they're about to put 3.11 on your testing server and probably upgrading next year. Okay, I'll be anxious to see how your testing goes, Mary. Okay, if anybody wants to add, again, everybody has access to edit this during our meetings, so please feel free to. Which takes us to just our connecting with the rest of the community, lots of interest groups and growing. That's really exciting. So I've got the dates there for the meetings that I think are the meeting dates. If I have misrepresented any, if we need to update that, you can either do that directly or just drop a note in chat and I'll update it. But I've tried to pull all of these from the community list and the wiki pages that are there. The links that you see here, if you're not familiar, you're new to us, the links here will take you to the interest group individual wiki pages. So we've got ACT, we've got authorities. Just a note about the authorities working group here. the note says we meet on the first or second Wednesdays. We meet just whenever our schedule's allowed, to be very honest. And that's not helpful for planning. I do recognize that, but we try to plan 3 or 4 months in advance so that our notes will reflect that if you're interested in that. We have been updating this community calendar. A note about the community calendar. I may have said this last time. If so, I'm just going to repeat myself. But the interest group leaders met at the Evergreen conference, and one of the things we talked about was having a truly shared calendar. The one you see on the community calendar now isn't. We all have to create our own calendars and link to them. Well, many of us have to create our own calendars and link to them. We're going to streamline the community calendar is what I'm trying to say. So we'll get there. But for now, the community calendar should reflect most of everything you see here. So authorities working group, again, we can say first or second Wednesdays. It's not always that, but the dates are on the community calendar. I've added the new groups. There's a bib frame study group, which held its first meeting. Bug squashing and feedback fest, we're going to say just determined. I'm going to say most likely in August. So we can at least grab that. Dev meetings meet on second Tuesdays. I was going to say usually right after us, because the CAT group usually meets on second Tuesdays. Anyway, so here are our regular groups. I did add the new user interface interest group, which is one of the things we are continuing to celebrate while we're talking about connecting with community. Stephanie, are you with us? And would you like to, you are with us. Hi, Stephanie. Would you like to say anything about the user interface interest group?
Sure. We got started kind of talking just about how the group is going to run and figuring out logistics of doing collaborative UI work. That's not really something that has been done in a sort of organized way in the Evergreen community before, as far as I know. And so we're sort of building our infrastructure to do our work while we're getting started doing the work. It's a lot. We have a lot of projects in mind coming up to sort of streamline things. Our very long-term, multi-year goal will be to create a design system to sort of unify everything, but we're going to start small with some style guide pieces and work up to a full style guide. And one of the things that we're starting with is error messages. So I've added some new tags to Launchpad, and everything beginning with UX dash is part of a UI interest group project. And the first one that we really did a big sweep and tried to gather up all the bugs for was error messaging. So in particular, I would love for the catalogers, if you come across one of those error messages that is unclear, that you have to explain a lot to new users in training, if it could provide more information than it does and it drives you crazy, if it's not already in Launchpad, please file it and tag it with that UX-error message thing, and we will add it to our list. We're going to rewrite the error messages, look at how they're displayed, and try to make them a lot more clear.
Unmute myself. So thank you, Stephanie. Let me capture this correctly. So the new Launchpad tags are going to be UX dash, but specifically the one for the error messages should be UX dash error.
I think it's, let me go find it and I will add it to the document if I can. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't spell specifically. That's specifically. Okay. We'll fill that in. Okay, I think I've captured most. Okay. And I know that your notes are fabulous, and I'm very, very excited about this. I love the collaborative nature of this too, because this is something nobody's talking about, and anybody that works in any facet of Evergreen can contribute to this. I'll come back and update notes a little bit. Okay, there we are. We'll talk about BibFrame in a moment. New interest groups, while Sebby's doing that, there's going to be a new permissions interest group that is meeting today at 2 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be led by Susan Marson of Pines. I don't know that Susan's with us, but the permissions interest group is something that I think is going to garner a lot of interest, pardon the pun, because they were talking about permissions, how to how to say this, how to take away some of the nebulousness of that and then talk more and more about how permissions are used. And I'm really looking forward to the conversations that are going to come out of this interest group and to just see the direction that the interest group is going to take. So if you are interested in joining that meeting, I included the link here. And if you can't attend the meeting, but you're interested in it, I'm sure Susan would not mind just entertaining your emails. So I left her email address there so you can contact Susan. So we will provide an update next month about how that goes. I'm watching chat. Oh, and I missed Ava. The Czech Common Evergreen catalog is planning to upgrade from 3.6 to 3.10 this summer. That's that other big jump that several libraries are taking. So I'll just echo my good luck for that. I know that you are ready for it. We're excited to hear how that goes. So we'll check in with you late in the summer and see how that's going. Thanks, Ava. Anything else about interest groups? We got the new permission interest group. I think I have all the interest groups now listed, whether they're interest groups or study groups or just committee, not just, but committees. I think I have everything represented. If you're involved in any community initiative that is not listed here that meets regularly, please let me know because I want to make sure we capture that. Ultimately, I will get this over on the wiki, but I do like to keep it on our agendas. So we got a new permission interest group. We got the user interface interest group. Any other interest groups that anybody wants to give an update from before I scroll on? AC is meeting later today too. Wednesdays are popular. He does outreach. Okay, let's see. And reports. We'll meet last Wednesday as always. They'll continue to meet. Okay. I'll keep going then. I left working group updates here just as a standing agenda item. Authorities working group, we are continuing to meet monthly. And we've got a growing group. We're up to 12 people there now. Tiffany made a note, AC is also meeting in a couple of hours. Thank you for being here, Tiffany. Yeah, so if you didn't have that on your schedule now, you can join at 3 p.m. for AC. So today you could stay busy in groups. 2 p.m. permissions group, 3 p.m. AC. It'd be just a day of community work. So I won't continue too long here. The authorities working group, I was just going to say we continue to meet monthly. We're up to 12 people and we represent a lot of different libraries and a lot of different, well, I was going to say a lot. Canada and the United States are represented and we're always open to new members is such a strong word. It's not that, but for just people participating. Mackenzie wants to know if there are any other academic libraries here. Mackenzie Johnson's from the University of PEI. So he's always looking to connect with academic libraries. And we could definitely use more academic librarians in that group because now Mackenzie is the only one and he is bravely representing that population. The big update from that is we're going to start testing 311 with both that Did You Mean feature that came out in 311, which should now allow us to do more than just browse authority records. It'll allow us to actually search authority records. So we will report back. Mackenzie's also update in chat says we do have more Canadians now. So it's not just him, but we need more academic libraries. So if you are from an academic library or know someone from an academic library, please get in touch with us. We would certainly like your input and authorities. We also cover 5 time zones now, so that's great.
Jennifer, just a quick note: Did You Mean does not give the ability to search authorities in a direct manner.
But they're in the indexes. Now I'm acting like I'm placing this.
I just wanted to be perfectly clear about that so people don't get mad.
That's fine.
What it does is it allows, it gives you the ability. So if you've got like 4XX references in your authorities can generate search suggestions. So it's a way to, if somebody searches for a term that is not in a bid record, but is in your authority record, you will get like a, did you mean this other term? Okay. So it's not directly searching authority records, but it is using authority 4XX data to generate search suggestions. So that's the distinction that I wanted to make sure to make.
Thank you. That is a big distinction between what I said it was overgeneralizing, but we haven't tested it yet either. So I am just overgeneralizing like crazy.
Yeah. I just didn't want you guys to go into testing with that expectation. They'd be like, no, this is terribly broken.
Yes. It doesn't do what Jennifer said it was going to do. That would have been horrible. Thank you, Andrea.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We're going to document exactly what we see so that we don't make this mistake when we come back.
And I do have actual Did You Mean documentation sitting here on my computer looking at me, glaring at me, that is slated for the community repo at some point.
Thank you.
Maybe on the plane next week to ALA.
Yeah, I've got so many things planned for travel that it couldn't possibly all get done.
That's foolish of us both.
It is foolish of all of us. So don't take our promise that these were not promises that they would be done. It's just intentions. I will say the authorities working groups hope to supplement that with just examples of what we're seeing. Not necessarily here's how you do it, but here's what happened when we did these things. So we're just kind of documenting that. So documenting is more in the line of here's what we're seeing, experience stuff, as opposed to here's how you did it. So we'll keep that up and then share it on the wiki. Thanks for the clarification, though. We're still excited about it. Very excited about it.
Yes, it is still very exciting. It's just not quite as exciting.
No, it's a step. Anyway, we'll come back with that once we've done our testing there. BibFrame, just looking at other things going on in the community. We held their first meeting on May 19th. There's a link to the notes there. Galen was here last month, and so you can watch if you missed last month's cataloging interest group meeting, you can watch that recording or see the slides that are posted in the notes there from when Galen talked about the purpose of this group, which is really just exploring what's going on in the BibFrame world, how we can respond to that in Evergreen as a community, how we think we may want to respond. Trying to just learn more about it is the first challenge and the first mission here. So if you read our notes, we've talked about just that, is how we get started and how we start to put context around what's happening in the BibFrame world and what BibFrame even really means and how that is tied to linked data. I'm stumbling over that. I don't think Galen's with us, but I do encourage you to check out those notes if you're interested. And the next meeting has not yet been scheduled. I think that's fair to say, but when it is scheduled, it'll be noticed. It will be noticed. It will be posted to the list, so everybody will get the opportunity to participate again. There are some really good notes in there. Mackenzie just made that note in there too. So the notes really are worth checking out just to kind of see the conversations we're having already and what direction we're going in. The study group's not intended to be, an ongoing group for, years and years like this interest group is. It's intended to be just this, a study group to spend 6 months or so learning about BibFrame and then discussing discussing how we might approach implementing anything that would, just kind of accommodate BibFrame such as it is. Okay, I sound less excited than that I truly am, but I just encourage you to check out the notes. Mary says it's inspired us to finally proceed with an authorities implementation still down the road. This is still talking about authorities. I just like to pick up the chat messages there. That's exciting though, Mary. I'm glad to think about authorities implementation. When you do, I'm now backing up to talk about the authorities working group. One of the things the authorities working group is a guide to how to implement and lessons learned from groups that have most recently implemented, like Niagara. Then Maggie's and Tricia have been very interested. Oh, Mary says you're referring now to the 4XX Did You Mean interaction. That's what's inspired you. You have so many reasons to be inspired for authorities implementation. Yes, the 4XX Did You Mean, absolutely. I will encourage you to come to our authorities working group when we start testing it in action, but you'll be able to do that on your tests. Nope, you need 311. Okay, I'm going to stop talking about Did You Mean now and keep going on. Though it is exciting to see where it's leading us. Most definitely. Incremental steps are good steps. Okay. Anything else about any of the working groups, any of the interest groups that I can stumble over before we keep going, or turn the microphone over to somebody else that wants to talk about them? I'm very happy to do that. Okay. That's fine. I'll keep going. Launchpad bugs are here as always. There's a list of all of them as always. Stephanie, I will add links to the accessibility bugs on here too, so we can quickly get to those next month. That's all these are, is a quick and easy way to just get to the different types of bugs. You can check out new ones, cataloging ones. These are just tags and searching by tags. So I'll add accessibility on there as well. We still have staff cataloger. I said we still have 10. I'm not blocker. These are ones that we can't work without, that we still need the traditional catalog. So let's see, I think there's still 10 of them. There's still 10, same 10. So keep an eye on those. The purpose of that tag is for if the traditional catalog were to go away, and we just, when the traditional catalog goes away, that we need this functionality, or we need some version of this functionality so that we don't lose it. Okay, So it's time to toast Elaine. Anybody that has tea or beverage beside you, I hope you raise your glasses and join with me in one big hip hip hurrah to toast Elaine in her retirement. So happy, 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 happy retirement, Elaine.
Well, thank you.
And this is my cat toasting you. It's not my cat, but it looks very much like my cat. And I wonder what he's been up to, but it really does. So congratulations, everybody. I'll turn my camera on too, just to toast you. Of course, mine's with a Diet Pepsi, but a toast is a toast, right?
Right.
Is it wrong to say, don't go?
It is wrong. Stop that.
Okay, fine. Go and have a great retirement, but we'll miss you a whole lot.
Well, thank you. I'm going to miss all y'all. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with this group and specifically in the broader Evergreen community.
And I think in a very real way, there would not be a Evergreen or a broader community without Elaine. So for those of you that don't know her deep history with this project, just bear that in mind. We owe her a much greater thanks than just being the voice of the cataloger. But she's really, one of the reasons there is an Evergreen altogether. So cheers, Elaine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very, very true. So for Elaine, those of you that may not know your long history, do you want to tell us how Evergreens got started? This is part of your interview. I just have a short little list of interview questions, but do you want to give us just the very brief pictures of where you were in the very beginning and how you are indeed, well, you don't have to brag on yourself if you don't want to, but tell us how it got started.
Well, Elizabeth, of course, is much better at doing this. She has the history down pat, but our previous ILS wasn't working for the Pines Consortium. At the time, it was one of the largest, if not the largest consortium, library consortium. And we had hit all sorts of roadblocks and all that within that software that they weren't even aware of. So Brad Lajeunesse and Jason Etheridge had fun just trying to develop an ILS on their own. So they put out a plan and convinced the state librarian and the deputy state librarian, Dave Singleton and Lamar Beach, the other way around, that we could develop our own ILS. They then had to present it to the University of University System Georgia IT people, which they gave them, the go ahead with a lot of caveats. So we hired the developers and put them in this little dark room. Well, it wasn't really dark. They always kept the lights off and the door closed. And so then, they spent about, I'm not sure how long it took them, an inordinately short amount of time. But we spent a lot of time talking to them. We had meetings around the state of where Jason always said, pretend it's magic, which turns out sometimes to come back and bite you. And so they said exactly what they wanted in the system. And then we had spent a lot of time explaining cataloging, MARC records, ACR2 then, all that kind of stuff, Library Congress subject headings to Mike and Jason. And we tried doing authority work from the very beginning, but it was just too much. And then, we went live and actually turned out because of congruence of events a lot of vendors then were being really just not easy to get along with. So it became international pretty quickly.
It did.
And that's it.
Just pretend it's magic. I like that too. We're still doing that, aren't we?
Yes, I think so. It's just sometimes when we say that, there are things that we can't do because of technology, but so we have to be careful about the pretend it's magic sometimes. But
I think a lot of us also have jobs because of Elaine and the work that you did. So thanks.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You're welcome.
Hard facts. Thank you, Elaine, for my current job.
I noticed that somebody
too.
said the developers were like 25 and fueled by caffeine. Yes, yes, that is true.
Yes, no, that was me. That was when they wrote it. They're now middle aged and a lot grumpier, but
They were pretty
they still
grumpy
like to
sometimes.
pretend.
It's still
like to
fueled by
pretend things-
caffeine.
They still like to pretend things are magic, and now I'm the one who has to curtail that. But
Yeah. Yeah, they were originally 4, and there was one guy, I can't remember his name. He just did not. I don't know how he was as a coder and a developer, but he was like the worst stereotype of a developer you can imagine. So he did not stay with the team for very long.
Yeah. No, it was the Jason and Mike and Bill Erickson were the kind of the wrote almost all the original code.
Yes. Yes.
I agree with Ruth. We have the best OGs. And I think Elaine is part of that OG crowd, right?
I guess so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which again, I say, please don't
100%.
go, but then do.
Yeah.
Blah.
I have mixed feelings, but
Certainly.
as I tell people, I've been working since I was 15 or 16. So I'm ready to go.
You deserve this. You absolutely do. And we know how to find you is the fun thing. So
Maybe not. No.
yes. Well, hey, look, we are catalogers. We can find you.
I know
So many librarians in here.
I know.
Man. You cannot hide.
No. We will find you. Okay, so perhaps my second and last interview question is, as you're stepping away from Evergreen, keep in mind, of course, you can always come back to our meetings once a month. We're here for you anytime you want to. You don't have to be employed in an Evergreen library to join us on a monthly basis. We're open to anybody that's interested in this, and certainly you're always welcome back. This is your group after all. But next question, as you're stepping away from Evergreen, are there things that you're really hoping that we focus on? The things that you just see are close and that just need a little more love and attention to get us there? Don't say BibFrame.
Oh, no.
Anything like that?
The authorities.
Yep.
I think that's, we've been trying to get that much more user-friendly, more just usable, and more relevant to searches for a very long time. And I think that, hopefully, all fingers and toes crossed, that this will be the push that will get it there. And I think there's been some discussion about redoing record and item buckets. It sounds really good to me. And I think those are the two main things.
Well, and I think we can take those as a mission, and we're starting down that path here, right? I think we're on a good path with authorities. Keep in mind, just small steps at a time, but we're getting there. Yeah, not the bucket work. I think we've got some really good notes about where we want to go with buckets. Buckets are, they're the possibility is kind of endless, but we need to put some structure around it and where we want to go, some vision around it. And I think that's a lot of what you've given us too, is the vision of what's next. So.
And I will say too, Elaine, and you know this from being in ECDI, that we're working on the first part of some buckets overhaul, and we'll be coming back to this group. I mean the ECDI, but we'll be coming back to this group to talk about when we get to the testing of the next stage, and maybe even the spec phase, and then item buckets. As somebody who I love buckets so desperately. So
yeah, they're very useful. Well, and another thing that I was just reminded of is the ability to search electronic resources without having bib records in the database, which we have tried, crashed and burned with that at least once. And my main problem with having the bib records in it is kind of the ephemeral nature of a lot of the e-resources. And then and having to keep up with the, vendors change their URLs all the time. And it's just particularly when you have a large consortium like Pines, trying to keep up with all that can be really difficult. And I just got, a reminder, we have somebody, outside of Pines and GPLS that wants us to load all these records for one of our statewide e-resources, and they're just trash records. And it's just, it's a very, I think it's, in some ways it's necessary to have the ability to have everything as a one-stop shop. It's just, you know, when you have multiple libraries with multiple resources, just gets really difficult. But
yes, it really does. And then when you no longer have that resource, you have to take it out of the system, and the whole maintenance of it is just no fun.
Yeah, and a lot of people, you know they have to maintain their physical copies within the BIB database, but they don't think about maintaining those e-resource records and also it's a learning curve, and Tiffany gets to deal with it.
I guess we should ask Tiffany, you know, how soon she plans to do all of these things that you're saying that we absolutely agree is the vision for what's coming next.
Yeah, and I think that, like Catherine said, there is discovery layers could be the answer to that. We're just right now haven't seen one that would accommodate a consortium where we have different libraries with different resources. So I think that's our, I think that's probably, because there are a lot of other things about discovery layers that could be very useful. So one thing that I know some discovery layers let you do is if you have a Library of Congress subject heading that is not the best in terms of DEI, you can just substitute the term that you want. So it's still in your record as a Library of Congress subject heading, but you get that better, more inclusive subject heading when people search for it.
Sure. I know that's a conversation.
Since discovery layers were mentioned, it might just from a development standpoint, it might actually be simpler to approach that development problem from the discovery layer side than the Evergreen side. Just based on what I know about how they search and index records and stuff like that. So.
Absolutely. Now let's see notes we have now. Mackenzie, we have enough infrastructural. You do think so? It makes me stumble. Infrastructural relationships. I got it. With EBSCO right now that we're starting to go down the discovery layer holdings manager route through their offerings, and there are a lot of offerings for discovery too. And yes, sesquipedalian. Got it, right? Sesquipedalian. I got it. Here's the thought. So discovery layers are perhaps a conversation we can even have as a group and look towards the fall. Perhaps of doing that, we can talk about as is what's out there and get experiences from, as catalogers, what we're seeing. And again, what's missing in some of them. Yes. And as much as they're open source, then to see how we can participate in those conversations too.
Because we do put a lot in the BIB record now, and even, you know, if they want us to keep putting more stuff in, but they don't want to give us time to do it, but that's a whole nother conversation. So, you know, you don't want to see all of that work within that BIB record go away by this discovery layer. You want the layer to be able to use everything that's in that BIB record.
Certainly. So as we do BIB records, you know, just do them. But, yeah. Hopefully. Okay. I think I've captured this little notes. I got busy just listening to you and I wasn't taking notes. Shame on me. Just kind of going back through all our notes. Lots of beautiful things. Anybody else want to say a few things or have questions for Elaine? I really wasn't just going to pester you with lots of questions, but I did want your vision for the future. Maybe how far we've come. That's the really thing that we can celebrate from where you started. And release after release, there's just new functionality, and catalogers are a huge part of that. If not, you know, the biggest part of testing stuff out.
Yeah, and I think sometimes as catalogers, we tend, you know, we find a workaround to an issue, and we just go with a workaround, and we don't. We quit making noises, which a lot of people would be surprised at that, but
it's true.
But it's and I think that's, you know, the way to improve the software is to not be quiet. And there is no ILS without a functional catalog. There is no catalog
Here.
without catalogers. So I think, find the workarounds, yes, so that you can do your job, but don't forget about the underlying problem.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful advice. Find the workarounds. I'm just capturing this. But don't forget about the problem. And give voice to the problem, and give voice to problem solutions. That's what we're here for. Okay. Well, again, we won't keep putting you in the spot there. If anybody else have any questions for Elaine, just drop them in there. We keep you forever, but we want you to enjoy your retirement. We want you to come back and talk with us and share your how you're living life and what your reading list is. We want you to share your reading list with us, because that's what I think I'm most jealous of. You actually get to work on your reading list.
I have I started calling them buckets, but from the patron side, their list. I have 10 lists, and all of them have, several of them have more than 500.
Wow.
So I'm going to be busy.
Organizing your list at first will be fun.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that lists need to be a little better. More functionality with lists. I'd love to if I placed a hold, I'd love to have the option to just automatically remove it from my list.
I think that's a good suggestion. And being able to have, headings within my list would be great. So I need, I need to be able to index my list.
Yeah, the reason I have so many is I've got mystery and science fiction in general, mm-hmm. and then I have it by the year, not necessarily the publication year, but the year I put it in my list. So.
Oh, see, that would be great. Oh, Taryn to the rescue. She says there is an open wish list. She thinks removing from the list when it's placed on hold. That really would be excellent.
I might have been the one that did it, but I don't know.
Good job. If not, do that real quickly.
And if not, we should definitely name that function like Elaine.
Yes, we definitely should. Absolutely. See, everybody's on board. We voted. It's great. I'll just put that note on the list that the cataloging interest group voted unanimously that this should happen.
And I know that you, as a staff member, you can open your lists within buckets and mm-hmm. do some cleanup in that, but dedupe and things like that. But having that easier ability.
There's Taryn's workaround to be able to open the list mm-hmm. by ID within the staff column and download it. Mm-hmm.
But I can't do that after the 30th.
No, Taryn will have to do it for you. Tiffany. Are they going to have a help ticket system for you so you can just send notes to them and say, these are the things that I would do if I was there?
I know their phone numbers. I can text them.
It works fine. And they're still smiling about it. That's great. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we do have one bug we wanted to talk about today that we do need cataloger input. So while I could just chat till the top of the hour, I did promise we would talk about this one. And yes, Tiffany, in all caps, she does know where you are.
Oh, yeah, they can't move without me, without knowing.
No. All right. Andrea and Ruth, do you want to introduce this bug that needs cataloger input that's about permission checks?
Yeah.
I'll open the bug so we can all look at it together.
Are we going to rock, paper, scissors?
And I will say too, no, you talk about it. And I've also deputized Britta because she's a much better cataloger than me and can actually articulate this without hemming and hawing and saying, the whole time.
Oh, we'll see about that.
Well, I mean, Britta is a better cataloger than me too. So welcome everybody to the abbreviated Ruth, Andrea, and Britta show. So this bug raised a usability question. So Evergreen, Indiana had asked Equinox to look into fixing this as part of a bug fix project. And there is a usability question here that we are interested in the community input before we collectively decide a path. So there are two sides of this equation. On one hand, there are a couple pieces of information that are only visible in the holdings editor that are not visible in holdings view or item status detailer somewhere else. And let me scroll down to my email with Britta, because there are, so those 5 elements that she identified are creator, last editor, last edit date, condition, and stacked cats. So currently the only way to see that information is to open the holdings editor. So therefore,
I would add notes, copy notes.
Copy notes.
You can't, if they're not public, you can't read them anywhere other than the item editor.
Wasn't that on our list?
Or maybe I missed that when you went down it.
Oh no.
I think that's an additional bug.
Okay.
Okay. So notes. Let me make a note about notes. Note about notes. I've got too many pieces of paper on my desk. Also, thank you, Elaine. What are we gonna do without you?
And I've seen that some action on that bug that you mentioned, Elaine, in recent days kind of fly past me in my inbox.
But the question here is, so if we institute a permission check that will block people who can't edit items from opening the item editor altogether, say, no, you can't open the item editor because you don't have permission, or at least float that operator change dialog. Like, is that the desired path here? Or do we want to have an alternative path where you can open the item editor and see things in it, but not make changes? And obviously then the path would be to make it obvious that they cannot make changes, as opposed to now where you can happily make changes in the item editor and then it'll just fail to save them, which is of course frustrating and wastes time of the user.
I do have some feedback on this, despite the fact that I should have provided it before this meeting. In my mind, I think that they should be able to open it, but only the things that they can edit, which is ostensibly most cases nothing, would be grayed out, so that there is so that they can visually see it's not an option to change it.
Yeah, so an obviously view open option to go by the chat comment. But yeah, what part of the problem now is that it's not obvious that you don't have permission to make changes. Also, if you open like a set, let's say you open a set of 4 items to edit them together and you only have permission to edit 3, the whole set will fail, which is also a separate bug. But the idea is to not have somebody go through the process of making changes that it turns out that they were not able to make. So that's what we would like community input on, is how would you like that to fail?
The other thing that I would say too is that that ability to view a batch of items in the holdings editor, I could see that being reasonable, that just failing to open the editor if they don't have the permission, so that they can only view one at a time.
Okay.
I know that probably is kind of a weird thing and might make it more difficult. So
it'll certainly make the development more difficult.
Yeah, so it's just a grain of salt kind of thing. Because I know in the past with some batch operations, if you didn't have the permission, it just completely failed. You couldn't even like initiate or have the idea that a batch was going to even work. So if that could be implemented in a sensible way, that'd be cool, but maybe it can't be.
But if you went to the view only option, if you didn't have permissions, if you were a user, if you opened under that 4 things and you could only edit some of them, if you could only edit them in view only, that would give you a clue that you've chosen something you can't manipulate.
That's true.
And we can also surface more to throw back to the usability group and their project of to be the change that we want to see in the world. We could start surfacing better error messages there too, saying, you know, like you do not have permission to edit like item whatever.
Right.
I mean, if there can actually be a message when you go in that said, this is why this is gray.
Right.
Maybe not that wording, but
just view on this
you have
login lacks
view
permission
only because of permissions issue.
Right. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. You
So
don't have permission.
So are there other thoughts here? Because like the original bug is to say, like, to just sort of part of the conversation, the original bug is no, they should just be blocked from opening the holdings editor altogether with an error message. Is that
if you move those things that could only be seen
uh-huh.
in the holdings editor to somewhere else they could be seen, then I would say yes. Don't
Okay.
They can't open it if they can't edit it.
And
But
this would be a thing about buckets. I mean, if we were at that point where we had actually exposed all of those things
right
as columns in the buckets, then we could lock down the holdings editor, but they're not there yet.
Right. And I think I'm also wondering though if view only would be useful for catalogers. If there would be a time when you just wanted to see what it was, you didn't, maybe you didn't want to edit it, you just wanted to look at it.
Yeah.
No, that's. Is there ever a time for catalogers when there's too much information? No.
That's allowing you to see. Yeah, but that's a lot. I mean, because when I have my holdings, the holdings view open, I've got, I don't remember how many columns, but there's still some things that I don't look at. Mm-hmm. And if I just want to see what that setting is, because I'm doing troubleshooting to find out why that item can't be placed on hold, and it turns out that they have quality set to bad or damaged or whatever the quality, not being good is, I just want to see it. I don't want to edit it because I want to tell them what the issue is and have them edit it. So in terms of troubleshooting, I think a view only option would be helpful. And then I wouldn't accidentally make a change.
Anita made a good comment as well in chat about, I mentioned buckets, but she said in item status.
Yeah.
To expose more of the holdings attributes.
Also true. Also another bug.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could do all the things, Ruth. That's a conversation between us. How far do you want to go? It's magic. Pretend it's magic. I'll make Jason Etheridge work on this. Just to,
Well, and I think Chrissy says what a lot of us are thinking too about, is there ever a time when you don't want to edit? And yeah, I think there is, and it is that troubleshooting. To Chrissy said there, sometimes you just need to look at something particular. You don't want to have to go into a screen where you could potentially change things.
Yeah.
So I think view only would be very helpful.
But what I'm seeing is
a different bug though.
I mean, what is the easiest place to fix that? Because I'm thinking like the holdings editor, it takes a minute to load that. Mm-hmm. I mean, item status, super fast.
Item status is in flux right now because of the
I know, because it's being angularized. Yeah.
So that makes me wary just from a process standpoint.
I think the holdings editor usually loads pretty quickly. Now, holdings view, when you have more than about 100 items.
Oh, I guess it was because I was trying to open 500 items in the holdings editor earlier today. So maybe that's why it took a while.
And there's also that if you have more than just a handful that you want to see at one time, then it does take a long time to open. Well, and that's would be a really good use case for a cataloger for view only if they just wanted to view 100 or 500 items at one time just to make sure everything is what they think it is, but they don't want to edit it yet for some reason. See that it takes forever to load. Having the view only option, particularly if it does load faster, might be good.
I have a question about Mary's comment. I thought that was last status change, not last editor. I'm not looking at it right this very second, though. I will go back and double check.
I think that I think it calls it last editor, but it's the status change and not the actual.
There's a column. There's a column that says edited by. That you can see in the list view of item status.
But that would include a cert person if they checked it out. If I've got the same, I think.
Well, then you can also do created by and edited by are columns that can be added to your view and item status.
Right, but what Elaine's saying is that edited by column would update if the cert transaction happened against that item.
Yes.
as well as
I
an
think
item
that's
editor.
kind of a design flaw. Then you need a third
Yes.
category.
Yes.
Yes,
is
yes,
correct.
yes. Well, and that's actually one thing that we've been occasionally hammering on, that we need to be able to see who actually edited the item, not who did a circ.
But to bring
They're
us
too
back to the question at hand, which is
Mhm.
the holdings. This is like sometimes when Stephanie and I talk about interfaces, I'm like, yes, you can fix all the things. Not today.
Mhm.
But to bring this back around to what Ruth and I will be talking about for a solution with this is we're kind of seems like we're coming to the view only by Ruth. And
Hi, Ruth.
yeah, and Anita's latest comment is exactly the kind of thing that we are trying to avoid. That is exactly the workflow of, you spend all this time editing a record and then your permission fails. Like, we're trying to make that more obvious up front. So you can either do an operator change or know that you're only going to be looking at this in view only mode. So that's kind of sounds like what we're coming around to. Am I correct?
Sounds fair. Let me throw this crazy thing in there too while we're doing these crazy comments, is that if we have this view only mode, I wonder if there's an option to, for somebody that has all the permissions, if there could also be an option to view only versus edit. Because it sounds like
that would be a good idea, I think.
Yeah, I think there is currently a permission structure for that.
so that, yeah, so we're opening the holdings editor. I guess I'm thinking, so I can either open the holdings editor, and right now I have permissions, I'm going to edit everything, but I want to just be able to just view it, so that I would have the option of how I want to interact with it. If I have all the permissions, I could still choose to view only.
So in the actions menu, perhaps have holdings editor view only, holdings editor edit mode, something like that.
Yeah. In my dream world, I like that a lot.
We need to be careful though, because I think there are some places where view item opens at an item status.
Mm-hmm.
And we would want to be real careful with labeling to make sure we're not confusing things
Right.
there.
That's why I think I would have like holdings editor view only.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So it was clear that it was holdings editor.
Mhm.
Because that's specifically what we're talking about now. So view versus edit in the holdings editor. But yes, holdings editor view only, I like.
Mhm.
I
Clear.
can't type.
Only. I like
Because we're
only.
all looking at you.
I know. No, it's because I'm trying to think and type at the same time. I can't. I am not a multitasker. I'm a single tracker. So multitaskers fascinate you people.
Read somewhere that nobody's really a multitasker.
That is my theory too.
Yes, we are really just doing one thing.
My husband's actually surprisingly really good at parallel processing, but I can't also be around him when he's doing too many things, because I'm just like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
I want to capture the thought about upfront notifications though, before we move on, which is, tell me what I can do before I waste my time.
Yep.
Right.
I'm reading Mary's note while you're doing that. Tangential issue about the edit link by the call number. The link for the edit by the barcode doesn't display your libraries online. Do we have a bug for this one, Mary? As I'm mumbling through your chat, is that there already?
I thought there was, but I went to look for it and I can't find it.
All right.
So
If
I don't know
not,
if I dreamed posting it or not.
and I feel like we've talked about it. Maybe I dreamed it too.
If you added, getting back to the holdings editor, excuse me, if you added to the actions menu, holdings editor view only, holdings editor edit mode, that's where you could kind of stop it, is that if you didn't have permissions to edit, you wouldn't be able to open it in edit mode. You would only be able to open it in view only.
Okay. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
And then we assume that would also stop the update of an item regardless of the working location and profile. Or just the working location as well, right?
Yeah, well, I know, and that's the kind of the primary bug that y'all are concerned about, right? That's actually probably a pretty minor fix, all told. It's because that was a thing that used to exist and then it went away with Angular, and then it was fixed kind of sledgehammery, and it just needs to be like the fix just needs to be tuned
smoothed out.
into that. Yeah, that one is not. Ironically enough, this one I know you guys were looking at is more of an add-on. This one's much more complicated, which is why I want to talk to the catalogers about it. Because I'm like, there's a lot of things we can do here. I actually am super intrigued by Taryn's proposal here as well, but my hunch is that might be more difficult in a development sense. But I really, really, really do like that.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. The only thing is it's one more thing to click on.
It is. If you need to edit, it's one more thing to click on.
Yeah.
I'm kind of okay with that.
I hear that, but yes, and adding one single click in the interest of clarity, I will be okay with that trade-off. But I am not a cataloger, so I would default to what catalogers think about that.
Of course, we could always just have another setting that tells us what we want to default to.
Yet another setting.
Yet another one.
Yeah, I think if you have to do it every single time you open the editor, it's going to get old fast. Because if you're trying to get a cart done.
Or maybe the save button instead. Well, because we gray out the save button for other reasons too, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly what Tiffany just said, because we've got preferences. Could it be a preference for the holdings editor? That thing being, at least what I'm taking is whether you open in view only or you open and edit, if you have those permissions, could it be a preference?
Right.
And I know with like when we look at the mark edit tab in the catalog, we have when we switch between the enhanced mark and the plain text, we can leave, and then when we come back, it just goes automatically to the one we were at last.
It's sticky.
Yeah, it sticks.
That's true. And I like that.
And we also have that default view option.
Well, the advantage though of having it in the action menu is if you have edit function, but you just want to see it on the view only menu, you could just open it in view only.
Yeah, that's true.
And that might be reasonably easy to implement as well, like, because you could basically just show the same holdings editor honoring the same, like, whether the same holdings editor preferences, like, so it knows that you only want to see these fields and that you want to see it unified or split or whatever, just without the editability, saveability. Like I would imagine that would be a reasonably straightforward implementation. Of course, now I'm going to take this back to the actual developers and they're going to tell me all the reasons why I'm wrong, but that's okay.
Well, and I also know saying that you're going to pick the wrong one every time, some days, but I think I think that would make it more useful if you're going to have a view only, that you maintain that it's on that actions menu, rather than having to do even setting it in preferences, because if you just want to see one thing in view only, then you'd have to change the preferences.
Yeah, I think I was meaning like that if you had a view only mode, it would honor whatever.
Oh no, I was thinking about it for a reference earlier to something I said earlier.
Right. Just going to flush some of these.
And thanks, Andrea, for bringing that to us. This is
I really appreciate y'all's feedback. And that gives me a lot to think about.
What if it was a staff permission that said editor view only, and then you can assign it to certain staff so they can't do anything? Sort of top load that.
I think there already is a separate view item permission edit item.
I would
but
think,
don't quote me on that.
Yeah. Well, isn't that if you can edit item, you can edit everything? Isn't that the related bug there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
that's
update
why,
copy allows
update
basically
barcode.
everything.
Yeah.
Right. And that was part of why we did the new update barcode permission as well, which doesn't actually apply to the holdings editor because opening that can of worms as well, as you can see, wormy. But like when you're using the replace barcode function now in item status or wherever, that now calls a separate permission, or as of 3.11, it calls a separate permission. So if you want,
but it's all or nothing at this point. So I think if you can, put in a staff permission that says view only, then they can they get the best of both worlds. They can see it but not touch it.
Right.
Yeah. It feels like it will definitely, we would benefit from a new permission if we end up with a view only option.
Yeah, I just
How we
think
would
that,
get there.
yeah, I think that would be good too. I just also think that might be useful to catalogers to have a view only.
Yes, definitely. So yes, we want it all.
Got it.
Okay.
I'll send Ruth the bill.
Yes.
No, seriously though, this is very helpful. Thank you. And if anybody has any additional input or thoughts or whatever, you can let me know or let Ruth know. This is me. Everyone knows me, but you know, this is me. No, that's not my email address because I can't type.
If it had been .me, that would have been
saying
perfect.
me. Yeah, no, that's why, because I was typing and talking, and that's what, see, you guys, I can't parallel process.
I think are you on the top of the agenda? I think you're already there, or maybe not.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
You're not. I used to put, you're on the wiki if you need to find
Okay.
Andrew's
That's
everywhere.
My real email address.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you can let Ruth or Britta know if you're an ECDI member what you think about this, and yeah, we will, or no, because this is ECDI, this every day. Oh my God, you guys. I gotta go to ALA next week. I gotta get my head on.
So just email Andrea at the good address, and
that'll
get us
me
there.
Your thoughts about this holdings editor view only thing if you have further thoughts, and I will synthesize those and go back and talk to Ruth and Britta, and we'll see if we can get together a little proposal to make this better and more happier cataloger friendly.
I think it's always helpful too to hear how other people who aren't catalogers use it, because my initial thing is, well, they just shouldn't be able to see it,
right?
But that does allow them to do their job. So I think that's good to be told how somebody else needs about the same resource.
Right. And that's and we actually had a fairly rousing debate about this in our internal dev meeting, where there were the people who were like, well, why do they even need to see it? And, you know, versus the, you know, don't make them, they need to see it, but don't make them don't make them think that they can edit something and then have it fail at the very end. That's frustrating.
That's rude.
It's rude.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think particularly someone who has, I think it was Anita that pointed out, she has a library manager and a cataloging, and if she's logged in as library manager, she can't edit it until, and she finds out the hard way that she can't edit something. So.
Right, which is why it's this might be for those of you who saw my talk last year about the everything permission, this might be a case where user has perms at, where when you open it, like it's just saying, checking ahead of time, will you be able to edit this, and saying, and then prompting something like, you know, you need an operator change to edit this.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you can just view only. So, all right. That gives me lots and lots of notes. Thank you.
And the lots and lots of notes are now shared with everyone. So thank you for that too. As bittersweet as it is, it's time to wrap up. Bring my cat back up and say best wishes, of course, to Elaine. And thank you for everything. Don't be a stranger. We'll make sure that we think of you every month, whether you join us or not.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the kind words.
Yes. And from all of us cataloging and beyond, we can't say thank you enough.
Yeah, well, thank you. Like I said, I've always enjoyed working with this group, even when I've yelled at people.
Sometimes people need yelling at.
You do.
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah. So like Southerners say, sometimes they just need shooting.
That's a great way to go out.
Yeah, I've yelled at Taryn.
Yep. Well, and somebody's going to have to continue that condition.
You yelled at me.
Yeah.
So Taryn, Tiffany, from time to time, if you need somebody to yell at you, just feel free to come to us. We'll be gladly fill that role. Okay. We'll wrap it up for June with a great big thank you one more time to Elaine. We'll see the rest of you in July. Last words to you, Elaine. Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.